For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, it could come down at any moment. The U.S. Supreme Court deciding on whether President Trump is immune from prosecution because he was president. And he, of course, is saying he has full immunity. It obviously rests a lot on the case of the election interference case in D.C. and classified documents case in Florida. And joining us now to talk about this and so much more is Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, how do you think the highest court is going to rule on this?
Well, good evening, my friends. It's always a pleasure to be on air with you. First, I think the ruling will come down a week from Friday. This is the hottest of the hot-button cases, and Chief Justice Roberts normally saves the case in that category for last. So around 10 o'clock on Friday morning, June 28. I think the court will punt this back to the trial judge and say, look, whatever Donald Trump did on January 6th, that was in furtherance of and in pursuant to his authority as president of the United States was obviously immune from prosecution. If, however, he did anything that was in furtherance of his own personal interests and the government says that that's a crime and it passes the test of motions to dismiss, then that's not immune. Who will decide what was presidential and what was personal? A jury. Where will that jury come from? Washington, D.C. What is the population of Washington, D.C.? About 90% anti-Trump. So you can take it from there.
Wow. So that's interesting because just like you said, separating some of these things is going to be hard, personal versus presidential.
Yeah, but it does mean that there will be, if I'm right, I mean, I could be wrong and the Supreme Court could come down in another way, but if my theory is right, John Roberts, the Chief Justice, has a history of wanting to punt these things, just as he punted on the abortion drug and just as he punted on bump stocks. He didn't rule that either of them was lawful. He persuaded a majority to rule on other ways on who can write the law and who can challenge the law. So I think he's going to punt this right back to the trial judge, which means there will be a trial. Now, if Trump is elected president, there will be no trial. If Trump is not elected president, as unlikely as that is, but if for some reason he's not elected president, there will be a trial and the jury will make these determinations.
Wow. Now, could it happen? Could the trial, and I'm looking at Judge Weinberg as I ask this question, could that trial, like the D.C. one, could that happen before Election Day? I mean, it's tight, but...
It could, but it's extremely unlikely. You have a trial judge who's not like Eileen Cannon in Florida. This trial judge, whose name is Chutkan, Judge Chutkan, is
Tanya Chutkan.
Aggressive. And she will clear her calendar.
By the way, she already apparently has. Did you hear that? I saw a report earlier today that she's kept her calendar very light for the next few months.
To make this even crazier, Rita and everyone else, earlier this week, Chief Justice Roberts ordered fences with a razor wire to surround the Supreme Court. Now, what the hell does that mean? They're going to come down with something they think is going to be so controversial that they have to keep the public away with the fences and razor wire.
Could he send that down to the border?
No, he can only. That's a great one, Rita. He can only do it at a federal building.
Judge Weinberg.
And it's got to be a federal courthouse.
Judge Napolitano, I have to say I concur in all respects with your offered opinion. I want to change. I think you're absolutely right. They are going to punt. They will send it back to the trial court to make the determination whether it's in the course and furtherance of official duties. I want to raise another issue with you, though. I want to talk to you about the gag order that Judge Merchan issued They try to go to the New York Court of Appeals, having failed in the state Supreme Court and the appellate division here in New York. They went to the Court of Appeals. Court of Appeals yesterday said that there was no constitutional issue. Seems to me First Amendment issue, interference with an election by suppressing the speech of a presidential candidate, is pretty much a First Amendment issue. So I don't know what the Court of Appeals was thinking. But now there's an application that was issued during the trial. Now there was an application by defense counsel, Judge, saying, well, now that the trial is over, shouldn't this be lifted? And please lift this. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree entirely with you, and quite frankly, I'm glad you raised it because I was planning to ask you if you've ever heard of a gag order surviving the end of the trial, because in my 50 years at the bar, I have never heard of one. When the trial is over,
the trial is over.
The gag order to protect the witnesses, to protect the jurors, that purpose no longer exists.
Exactly right. You couldn't be more correct. And why, by the way, why Mershon has to have an application before I'm brought by defense counsel and is delaying it until July 11th is beyond me. He should have done this, as we say in our business, Judge, on his own motion, sua sponte.
And by the way, let's not forget, it's also the debate is coming up next week. He's campaigning. He's not allowed to talk about these things? Well,
he has to be liberated before that debate, Judge Weinberg. Otherwise, he's debating with a crutch in his hands. He has to be, because you know that Biden's going to raise the conviction.
Of course.
And Trump has to have every opportunity to say whatever he wants to rebut what the president says.
And if I were outside counsel to Donald Trump and they said to me, what can I do? I'd say, you go full bore. You say whatever you want on that issue. This is an illegal prior restraint under the First Amendment. The hell with Mershon's order. That's what I would say.
Judge, it is rare that I would say the hell with a fellow jurist's order, but I agree with you 100% in this particular case, and he will be vindicated for doing it.
Exactly
the
right.
The appellate division and the Court of Appeals were ruling as if the trial were still going on. That's absurd. Don't they read newspapers? They must know the trial is over.
Yeah, it's preposterous. And to have somebody, again, who's the leading candidate. Now, do you think we'll hear a decision, guys, before the debate? I mean, the debate's less than, it's a week away now.
Judge Weinberg knows better than I how quickly or slowly Justice Mershon will rule and the appellate division will rule. I can't answer that.
I can't imagine.
Will they rule before next Thursday?
What do you think? Weinberg? What do you think, Judge?
Only if they want to do the right thing.
Oh, that's bad.
Which, as we say in our business, Judge, that's assuming facts, not in evidence.
Unless the Supreme Court fears the Democratic Party.
Well,
we're not at the Supreme Court of the United States yet. Right now, we're in the state system.
Okay. Yeah. On this one, still right.
John, I share your view, but I don't think this will make its way to the Supreme Court of the United States. Not this week and not that next week. It's their two busiest weeks of the year, so they're not going to hear this before the debate. But the appellate division or the Court of Appeals must liberate Trump, and if they don't, he should accept Judge Weinberg's advice and answer those questions on the conviction however he wants.
I agree.
I think all Americans should agree to that.
Yeah, you can't do a debate and have one hand tied behind your back. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Correct.
Long Island is more exciting than ever at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. Get ready to zoom into some serious cash with Zoom Ball every Wednesday in June. Win up to $500,000. 1 point equals 1 entry. 2 lucky winners will be drawn at the top of every hour from 1 to 5 p.m. to play Zoom Ball. Discover the excitement at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel.
If gambling is a problem for you or someone, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 877-8-HOPE-NY or text NY.